So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Q&A. Obviously, you'll notice it's a little bit of a different background here. I'm actually out in Iceland for a week, taking my first proper holiday of the year, which now that I say it, I think I totally just played myself because I'm actually recording a Q&A, but
congratulations, you played yourself.
Whatever. I don't consider these work. These are pretty fun to me. So yeah, this trip kind of ties up what's been a very, very intense year so far. From January until basically around July, I was cranking out work. I mean, I got more done in this first 6 months than I actually wanted to get done in the entire year. And then from there, going to Manchester boxing twice a day for 6 weeks and doing that whole shenanigan obviously was very, very intense as well. So it's nice to come to Iceland, just kind of detox, relax, and chill. So with no further ado, let's get straight into the questions. Now, question number 1 is, how do you overcome a lack in motivation and not having the energy to start working on building your business? Thanks, Iman. So I was actually about to go down 2 avenues. I guess maybe just because of the fact that, as I said, I'm in Iceland at the moment, and I'm like, sometimes when you're lacking motivation or energy, like right now, the last thing on earth I want to do is work. Like that first 6 month sprint at the beginning of the year was super intense. I was super productive, and I'm also in this weird purgatory right now with work-wise, where like everything is working, so it's quite weird. But later on, obviously mentioned, you're procrastinating, you don't have the motivation to actually start working on your business. Now, I won't be the first to tell you this, but motivation means absolutely nothing to me. Discipline is everything. And I always tell people, if you feel like you're doing too little, you're doing just the right amount. I've used this analogy before, but I find this is the best way I can get my point across as to what building a business is like and what, focusing on work is like. If you're some scrawny dude going into the gym, you're not going to immediately go ahead and bench press 4 plates, are you? No, first you have to maybe start with a bar and then do that for 5 days. Maybe then you go on and you add 10 kilo plates. I think that's like 20 pounds for all you Americans. And then from there you start adding 1 plate and then 1.5 and 2. And this is a long journey over years. Realistically, for example, I would never get to 4 plates ever. But you get my point. Let's say something like that on a deadlift. So that whole concept is known as progressive overload, and it's what powerlifters do. I used to do a lot of powerlifting back when I was like 16, 17, conjugate methods, stuff like that. So the whole point is that slowly and surely over the weeks, months, years, you're starting to add on more plates and you're starting to push by little micro adjustments. So let's say, for example, you're starting your agency and you've decided your form of outreach is cold calling. Rather than trying to go for 100 cold calls tomorrow and watch Wolf of Wall Street to amp you up and watch some motivational rah-rah bullshit and all this crap, instead of that, just do 15 cold calls tomorrow. That is so manageable. And just do that for a couple days and then bump it up to 20 and then keep going down the cycle. And the other really important thing to do is, once you do that, give yourself some sort of reward at the end of the day if you've accomplished it, or after your work is done. And this kind of bleeds into the next topic, which is, look, when you're first starting, you should not be working 8 to 10 hours a day. Like, I know most people are full of such shit out there. They're like, oh, I work 14, 15 hours a day. I, at my height of work, will be working 12 hours a day, but they will be actual work. Most days I usually work from, I get my deep focus work hours in from 9 until 1, and 4 hours of deep focus work, with 10-minute breaks. So I do 15-minute work, 10-minute break, 15-minute work, 10-minute break, etc., etc. That 4 hours is so strenuous mentally. And then I eat lunch, and then later on in the evenings I have sales calls, team calls, and then I'll go in and do some more work if I don't have too many sales calls or team calls that day, or anything else that involves another person. And yeah, most of the time I end up work around 6 p.m. So I work from 9 until 6, but there's also kind of like 45 minutes for lunch, so I consider that like 8 hours. Like, for me, if I can get 8 hours of deep focus work done, obviously the sales calls and stuff in the evening, like I'm happy. So my point is to you, don't expect to be working 9, 10, 12 hours a day. If you're first starting out and you're in your first month of your agency life, or even your first 2-3 months of your agency life, you should not be doing more than 4-hour deep focus work a day, to be honest. And to be honest, you can't. Like, I'm just telling you that for a fact. This is the issue. It's people will say that they're working hard or whatever, and they have a very different perception as to what work is. For me, work is your phone is on airplane mode in another room. For me, deep focused work is you've got YouTube, Facebook, and anything that is a distraction blocked on your computer. For me, deep focused work is you are in the zone, you've meditated before. For me, I like to light incense sticks, I like to listen to Brain FM, all that good stuff. And to me, that is really what deep focused work is. So kind of coming back to the point, the main thing that you need to focus on is doing less than you think you should do, but just do it consistently, day in, day out. That is by far the most important thing. So next question, is it a lot less likely that business owners will not be willing to pay thousands of marketing due to everything that's going on in the world? No, not at all. And I can tell you that's been probably one of the biggest shockers of 2020 is the economy is totally fine. Will I see that being the case in 2021? No, not as much. I don't know how long the government can basically just keep the economy propped up for, but I can tell you in 2020, every single business owner friend I know, including all of my clients, have done better this year. Now, there were certain industries that for a while were affected, aka gyms, restaurants, this, that, but they've all bounced back. So right now, in this present moment, it has zero effect whatsoever. In late 2021, 2022, I think we will be going into a recession. Because once again, you can only keep things propped up for so long. Then that's a bit more of a viable question, and I can understand that. But as a business owner myself, outside of the agency with the clothing line and the education company, when I have my line items of expenses, the ones that I'm looking at, I'm working through those line items and I'm going, does this make me money? Is this like a net zero, so it doesn't make me money, it doesn't really lose me money, or does this lose me money? And as a business owner, you go through those and you start removing every single thing that loses you money. So as you're a net positive on the balance sheet, you are a service. That's the DNA, that's the nature of it. So it doesn't matter whether it's the worst financial recession in history. If you are a net positive, it doesn't matter what you're charging as long as you are a net positive and you actually make that business money. So I've said this many a time, guys, we're in a very lucky business and almost a unicorn business where, in a downtime, clients are going to cut, for example, the swanky office because it doesn't really make a money. And you're seeing that all across the world right now. Like in bad times, luxuries really get affected. And I mean that in a business sense. Also somewhat in a standard sense, but primarily in a business sense, luxuries get cut. For example, the offices, people in the company having the ability to fly business or company trips or team building trips or all of this, that. The essentials and the things that make money never get cut. So you don't need to worry about that. Next question is, when can we expect the blue light blockers in the podcast? So obviously you'll notice right now I've got the Shure SM7B. This is actually hooked up and audio is synced. So I ended up getting like 6-7 weeks ago the podcasting setup. I think the entire setup cost me £8,000, like $10,000. So I have like 3 Sonys now. I have this one, which is the A7R4. I have the A7R3, obviously all the lenses, the 16 to 35 G Master. I have the 24 to 70 G Master. I have another 85 G Master, and I'm also ordering the new Sony A7S III. Been waiting for that for the longest time. So anyways, long story short, the podcasting setup costs now, we will do once the A7S III comes in, 15 grand. And it's so funny, like 2 days after I ordered it, I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this. So here's the thing, like guys, I already have so much on my plate. I have so much on my plate with the agency, with the education company. I mean, that alone, I have people just baffled how the hell I manage that stuff. And it's been a long haul to even just try to manage those 2 businesses, then also having a clothing line, then also having the projects in Nepal. And also within those businesses, like, I like to do things that are quite gregarious and out there. Like, those businesses aren't very simple, for the education company. The operational complexity that goes into that thing is nuts. For the agency, I mean, that one is kind of like my prized possession. The agency, it's just so streamlined. But nonetheless, it's Danny and Luis and Kieran, and it's a lot to manage. We have over 10 clients at this point. And, that's even something that I'm having to get used to is, since I brought on Luis 3 months ago, now we have extra capacity. So we're trying to climb towards that 16 to 18 mark in terms of client capacity. So I guess that business is kind of my prized possession. That thing, it just runs so operationally smooth. But then once again, we look at something like the clothing line. Like these glasses, it's already been a 3-4 month process. They're going to be out in around 2 months. I'm so happy with them. They're incredible. And I'm so excited for you guys to get your hands on it. But yeah, this is pertaining to the podcast. So I ordered all this equipment, spend, over 5 figures on this podcasting equipment. And then I was like, nah, I'm not going to do it. So I've decided I'm not going to do a podcast. The thing that stressed me out about the podcast is like, for example, a Q&A, I can just put the camera down and this and that, and it's not an issue. And, if I want to be really easy, then I can just use the mic on top of there. And, I don't have to, use something like the Shure SM7B. But the thing that's really quite intense about the podcast is the fact that, having guests on and this and that. So I didn't really want to like lock myself into saying that I'm doing a big podcast or whatever. But what I'm going to do is I am going to do the Private Victories podcast. It's going to be on the second channel. So I was thinking of having like a dedicated channel for this and that. But no, I'm going to have it on the second channel. And I think every month I'm going to do a monthly roundup and just share what lessons I've learned that month, any books. I'm going to do some on my own, just talking about certain specific topics. I'm going to do some with Kieran. I think it'll be a 50-50 split of myself and Kieran in terms of the ones where it's just either me and him. And then occasionally I'll bring on some guests as well if I think that there's anyone interesting. So with the podcast, it will be coming very, very soon. Basically, end of August will be the first one. Actually, I think I'm going to record one here, sort of a long form on my own, but don't expect it to be a weekly thing or this or that. It'll just be another one of many incredible pieces of content going out right here, actually, on the second channel. So yeah, that's that. With the blue light blockers, I mean, it feels like it's been most of 2020, something that's been in production and on the horizon, but we're kind of at the final stretch. So in 2 months or so, actually 3 months, it'll be done, dusted. I mean, the complexity that goes into this compared to say something like the clothes is nuts, but it's well worth it. I'm so excited for you guys to get your hands on the blue light blockers. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Next question I thought that was very interesting. I've never been asked something like this, is how do you deal with the absence of a dad figure in your life? So I think, as most of you guys know, my biological father, I never met him. Well, I will say that I never met him, but it's nice to be able to laugh at this now, but I say that I never met him, but I actually met him once when I was 8, which I thought was quite ironic because like I met him, that first day, and then the next day he promised me that it's funny even saying this. He promised me that we'd go to, I think it was like an amusement park or something. I was in Russia, in Dagestan where I'm from. And like the next day he said he was busy. So I thought that was pretty indicative. But yeah, so my biological father, obviously was never really there in my life. He was alcoholic abusive. So my mom, that's the thing about alcoholic abusive is apparently is like, when they're sober, apparently they're total angels and total gentlemen. So yeah, my mom kind of took it for a little while. And then eventually once she was pregnant with me, it wasn't just her health that she was worried about. It was, the trauma to yours truly. So yeah, he wasn't around obviously when I was born. So for the first 3-4 years of my life, I was mainly raised by my grandma and my grandpa. My mom was 23, working 3 jobs. Just a super woman, to be honest. And yeah, I moved to London when I was 4 years old. And my mom and my stepdad had been dating for a year at that point. She'd gone over to London for like 4 months to kind of test things out and trial living together. And then, yeah, he ended up proposing. So they got married when I was 4. And it's weird. Like, my stepdad wasn't really, I don't know. It didn't feel like having a dad, cause he was gone all the time. Like, he was gone 10 months of the year, and, kind of from the age of like 8 or 9. And it just wasn't really one of those relationships. I'd say, if I'm just very honest, like I would have preferred to have no dad than a stepdad who was very, psychologically, traumatized, very psychologically complicated, and definitely wanted to take that out on someone, and that someone was me. So, yeah. I think how does one deal with the absence of a dad figure in their life? I'd say that's the easier thing, so for any of you guys out here who, don't have a dad in your life or never did, be grateful for that, because, coming firsthand, I can tell you that's a hell of a lot easier than like having someone who is like there 10% of the time, and when they're there, their literal life goal is to, break you basically. So yeah, it's a complicated question, to be honest. I'd say the easiest way is just to find older confidants and advisors in your life. I have a lot of older men that I respect and I respect and I trust and I look up to. I mean, even I'm here in Iceland right now, and some of you guys or probably a lot of you guys know Bob. Bob and I first started talking when I was 16, and he's got over a decade plus more life experience than me, so he's someone I always go to in terms of life experience or advice or this or that. I have older friends, and I have a lot of like older spiritual friends, as many of you guys know. Josh, Detox Dudes. I have my buddy Richard, recently Jimmy, who's basically my boxing trainer out in Manchester. I mean, that dude is just an absolute alpha male. But yeah, long story short is, if you've never had a father figure in your life, I'd say the best thing you can do is just seek out older advisors and confidants. And, I think you should be totally fine there. So I guess that's more in terms of like a wisdom perspective side of things. From an emotional support side of things, I think it's something that I don't really realize. Like, I think it would have been nice to have a dad growing up. And obviously I don't think I internalize how it affected me, but the concept to me now at the age of 20, like, of having a father is like, I don't know, it just feels like so weird to even think that. So, I enjoy the fact that it's just me and my mom. Makes things a hell of a lot easier. I like the fact that I don't have any siblings either. So I think definitely when I was younger, it was quite tough. Just even, no one teaches you manhood. And to be honest, there's a lot of 20, 30, 40-year-olds out there who still don't know and understand manhood. And that's why I like having a lot of these older advisors, as I said. And a lot, most of the people that I trust the most, in terms of my older advisors, they're not my friends who are worth hundreds of millions. They're the people who, like, character-wise, I most resonate with. And they're the people whose characters I appreciate. So, yeah, basically that's how I went about dealing with not having a dad in my life. So next question to land up the moon. By the way, guys, I realized that like I probably feel or look very, very tired, and the answer is I am. I'm not. When you wake up and you've had such great sleep, but you still feel like your eyes are kind of droopy and this or that. Normally day to day, I'd be waking up, getting into my morning routine, this, that. Whereas here, I'm not doing any work, just meditation, journaling, relaxing, stuff like that. So if I appear tired, I'm not. I'm just very relaxed and detoxing at the moment. So next question is Bali or Cape Town. If you want to have fun, I'd say Bali 100%. If you want to work, Cape Town. I was so pleasantly surprised and a little shocked at just how productive I was in Cape Town. Cape Town to me was like LA. It reminds me a lot of LA, except, everything's so cheap. And there's a lot less temptation, a lot less going on and whatnot. Like, especially Cape Town. Cape Town's really busy between December and January because that's their summer, and it's quite like there's a lot of people from abroad and whatnot. By the time that it kind of gets like February, March, April, like it's only the people who actually live in Cape Town. So I'd say Cape Town if you want to have relax but then still be able to work. And obviously there's like, in Cape Town, what I love is like I would walk around, and also people make Cape Town out to be super dangerous. I don't think it is in the slightest. Like, I remember the first month and a half I went there, I didn't have any nice watches with me. And then Kieran, when he flew in, because we actually had a client fly into Cape Town for a 2-day training, I made him bring me my Rolex because I was like, I don't feel unsafe at all. So what I like about Cape Town is, I can walk around in jeans, shoes, and, Rolex. And like in Bali, you can't walk around with jeans or like, some golden goose or something like that. In Bali, it's very like slides, shorts, and a t-shirt. It's that sort of vibe. So I think if I was to go somewhere for 3 or 6 months, 100% Cape Town. If I just want to have a fun week or two, Bali. Women are a lot better in Bali. You got a lot more options in Bali, that's for sure. And I think partying wise, I actually enjoy Bali more than Cape Town, because Cape Town, it's like you got a little taste of sort of Western life in terms of like tables and this and that, but it's just not done very well. So I kind of just like the grunginess at times of Bali clubbing and going out in Bali, and just 4 a.m. just driving back on your moped and just having like a group of friends and just staying up until like 7, by the pool, partying and this. I think Bali's a lot of fun. But that's kind of my 2 cents. Just to kind of break it down further, if I want to have a crazy fun week, I go Bali. If I want to have a crazy detox, healing, relax week, I go to Iceland. And if I wanted to spend an extended period of time somewhere, really enjoy myself, but then also get a lot of work done, I go Cape Town. So ladies and gentlemen, that pretty much wraps it up for today's Q&A. I hope you guys all enjoyed. Now, if you want to get your question answered, all you have to do is make sure that you hit subscribe, turn on post notifications, and I pick questions within the first 2 hours of actually going ahead and doing that Q&A post. So I hope you guys all enjoyed. On another note, I'll go ahead and drop the winner of the Gadzhi giveaway down below. If you want to be drawn into winning a piece of apparel from Gadzhi, all you have to do, hit subscribe, turn on post notifications, and comment within the first 2 hours of the latest video going live. Ladies and gents, hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.